Welcome back to Session 2. We hope you enjoyed the time with the students during Activity 1, and we are looking forward to exploring a little bit more about how entrepreneurs use resources within their regions. In Session 2, the materials that we are going to need are the resource cards, the key terms specific to Session 2, the Our Region flyer, the large poster of the United States of America that you can hang up hopefully on the board or on a wall, and the postcards that you can send home with the students after today's session. You will also want to work with the classroom teacher to get the table tents back that they filled out in the first session and to make sure that they put those on their desk so you can continue to get to know their names. As you start today's session, you want to make sure that you take the time to have the students remind you of what they learned during the first session, talking a little bit about entrepreneurs and the importance of those common traits that they have, as well as how they often make mistakes and they have to learn from them and move forward. Today's session is really going to focus on resources, and specifically the resources that are found in different regions. So to start off your lesson today, you want to just explore the United States of America map. What you'll notice is that if you hand out the region flyer, there is a small map in the center that the students can look at. So if your classroom is set up to where there's some distance between the students in the back of the room to where the map is in the front, you might want to consider handing this out a little sooner than the book indicates so that they can also reference it on their desks. But you just want to create a conversation with the students about what features they see on that map. Talk about things such as the time zone and the compass rose and various landmarks. Make sure to point out landmarks that might be in your specific community. You'll also find some talking points in the guidebook, as well as that open section in which you can talk a little bit of, or you can write down ideas on how you can talk about things personally that you are familiar with. You also want to define region and what that means. And obviously on the map there are regions set out with different colors. But sometimes regions can be a little bit abstract for students, so talking about how their classroom is set up in regions, if they have maybe a carpet space or a reading area or a math section or a calendar portion in their classroom, or even talking about the school as a whole. Sometimes schools have regions where the gymnasium is versus the cafeteria, etc. That might help break down that concept and be able for them to grasp it a little bit more. If you haven't handed out the flyers, make sure to do so at this point after your brainstorm on the maps, and you will notice that there are a lot of different vocabulary terms that you can look at. One great tip is to make sure that you have lots of synonyms for these words, especially if you have a diverse classroom that has some students with English as a second language. There's a lot of vocabulary, so this flyer is going to help them visually see what that is, but you also want to make sure to talk about it, and having synonyms is a great way to make sure to communicate those terms to the students. At this point, the book suggests that you split the students into groups. I would suggest that you wait until after you have a conversation about natural, human, and capital resources, goods and services, and a little bit about brainstorming. What I have found is that if you split them into groups, they get very distracted, and I lost the conversation and that facilitated time with them because they were so focused on each other that they weren't focusing on me. So what I would suggest to do at this point is talk a little bit about natural, human, and capital resources. And again, using the classroom is a great way to bring those concepts to the students. So I always talk about what are the natural resources we have in this classroom. We have students, we have a teacher, we have me as the JA volunteer. What natural resources we have. Maybe you have sunlight coming in, maybe there's plants, maybe the teacher has an apple on her desk, things such as that. And then capital resources. Clearly we have pencils and desks and computers, etc. But using the classroom is a great way to get them to think about the differences of each of those resources. Also talking about goods and services, and then finally talking about brainstorming and the importance of what brainstorming is, because when the students get into their small groups, they are going to be brainstorming and working together. So brainstorming is putting as many ideas on the list as they possibly can, no dumb ideas as you start sharing, and then from there you're going to be breaking it down and actually making decisions. So after that conversation, split the students into small groups, and you would give each student a resource card. what you'll notice on these cards is that every group of students is going to have a different region of the United States. From that region, they are going to have some specific natural resources, capital resources, and human resources that are significant in that area. What the students are challenged to do is to use the region's flyer on the back and to talk through these specific categories. So first of all, they're just supposed to brainstorm possible businesses that could be created using the resources provided on that card. Now, the book does have some suggestions in the guidebook, so if your students are struggling, there are some tips on how to get them brainstorming in the right direction. Those are found kind of toward the bottom after all the rest of the brainstorming. After they talk in their small groups a little bit, you want to move them on to the second category, which is to brainstorm possible business names for their business. And they can write the ideas in the blue section. And then finally, you want them to talk about advertising. How would they advertise their business to get people interested in being able to buy their product? It is also a great idea to get them to think about what their business would be selling. Would it be a good or a service? And they can also write that next to the information that they have provided on this form. Hopefully you'll have a little bit of time at the end to have each group come up and share a little bit about their region and the business that they were able to brainstorm out. It's always a great idea when you do group presentations to remind the audience how to be a great audience and to be good listeners and to be respectful to each group along the way. Again, at the end of this activity, you want to make sure to do a summary and review to wrap up all of the main concepts. Overall, in this activity, we really want to highlight that entrepreneurs use the resources available to make and sell goods and services in their specific region. At the very end, you want to ask the teacher the best way to distribute the postcards. This is just a little note that the students can take home to give their parents a little information about what junior achievement is. And you'll notice it's also a magnet that they can pop out a little picture frame, and they can have a magnet on their fridge as well. Enjoy session 2.